All right, good morning, you guys. We're going to go over what a decimal is. So today starts your unit of decimals. So we're going to back way up because I'm not sure how much decimals you got last year with fourth grade being cut short a little bit. So turn to a blank, clean page, and on the top, you're going to label it with what is a decimal and today's date. Today's September 8th. And remember, at any time while you're watching this video, you can pause it. So if I go too fast and you can't keep up, you can always pause it or you can rewind it. All right, so what is a decimal? A decimal is a part of a whole. Where have you ever heard part of a whole before? Well, we've heard it in fractions. So if you have a whole cookie and you're breaking it into two parts to share with a friend, that's a fraction. And you know that because it's 1/2. But it is also a decimal. So you can represent a part of a whole by a fraction and by a decimal. All right, so we're going to look at this place value chart. And it's just like the one that I gave you guys at the beginning of the year. Well, beginning of the year. We're still in the beginning of the year. So, I mean, at the beginning of like when we started online school. So I also attached a copy of this one here in this week's materials to print if you would like to print it out. Or you can just copy it down yourself. So we looked at this place value chart and we have the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. So all the numbers that are at this decimal point, all the numbers that keep going on forever to the left are whole numbers. And all the numbers from this decimal point to the right are decimals. So those are parts of a whole. So the decimal actually separates two different kinds of numbers, whole numbers and decimals, which are parts of a whole. So for the whole numbers, we have ones, tens, hundreds. For our decimals, we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. And this is what they look like when they're written in decimal form. And then, of course, the whole numbers. So when you're thinking of decimals, one of the questions I asked you guys was in the warm-up, when in real life do you use decimals? You use and see decimals with money in real life. And you'll be dealing a lot with money once you become an adult. Even if you use your debit card or your credit card, you still get information in the mail that tells you how much money you have in there or how much money you spent on it. So you'll be dealing with decimals. And if you put the decimal in the wrong spot, it could really mess things up. So think of the ones like a dollar. Like when we reviewed it last week, your place value. So you have a dollar. And if you break a dollar into tenths, that's dimes because there's 10 dimes in a dollar. And if you break your dollar into hundredths, those are your pennies. So dimes and pennies are smaller than one whole because they're smaller than a dollar. So that's a good way to remember decimals. And that's how we use it in real life. Okay, so today we're working on reading and writing decimals. So here are some things that you need to write down about reading and writing decimals. Read, write, and say. So when you are reading or saying, because when you're reading it, it's just in your head. When you're saying it, you're saying out loud what you're reading. You move from left to right. So if I have 100, 110, and 2 ones, I would say 112, because it'd be 10. 110, 2 ones. So 112. Or if I was in the thousands, it would be 1,282. You start with the left and go to the right, just like when you're reading a sentence. So the same goes even when you have decimals. You start with the biggest value and you go to the right. you read the decimal like it's a whole number. So for example, if I had, I'm going to say this next part too, and you end with the last place value. So this is how you do it. So you start from the left to the right, you read the decimal as a whole number, and then you end it with the last place value. So here's your example. 26 and, because you say and, it says right here, and for the decimal point, 421 thousandths. So 26 and 421 thousandths. So what I always told my kids, like when we're in class, I would have them go to the decimal, cover the rest of the number, read that number, 26. When you see the decimal, you say and. Then you cover the other side of the number. Read that like there was no decimal, 421, and then say the last place value, which would be in the thousandths. So 26, I'm going to show you get that again. 26 and 421 thousandths, because that 1 is in the thousandths place. So you really have to know your decimal places because you're saying them at the end of your number. So this is your example. These are your notes for today. I have an assignment for you today. So I'm going to do some examples for you with your try it assignment. Now, it's very important. I need you guys just to try at least the assignment, because I can't help you if you just say, well, I don't understand it, and then that's it. Well, I'm not sitting next to you to where I can see exactly what you're doing and not doing to be able to help you through it. So you need to try something, try to do something, and then ask a question if you have a specific question about it. Like, I don't understand how to read it. I don't understand how to write it. Something. You got to give me something for any questions that you guys have. All right, so make sure you have these notes in your notebook. That's so extremely important because you can use these notes to help you with your quiz on Friday. So you can use your notes from your notebook to help you with the quiz on Friday. All right, so once you have these written down, go ahead and move on to the try it part of these slides.